All right, all right, all right. What's going on? Welcome, everybody. Like we always do at this time. So good. So glad to see you all. In fact, tonight's a special night because for some strange reason, you all have decided to, let me get my co-host up here. You all have decided to not spend quality time with your loved ones, and you decided to come hang out with two Eds, right? And we are extremely grateful for that. And so tonight, we're gonna do things a little bit different as we start off, just to set the mood. Make sure everybody's feeling a little special tonight, right? Play a little bit of that Marvin Gaye to get the juices flowing. I hope everybody's doing well. You brought your napkins with you. AJ, what's going on? Welcome from California. So you and Ed are like neighbors, pretty much, depending on where in California, right? But who's ready to get it on with their napkin tonight? That sounded filthy. After I said it, I realized how nasty it is. Anyway, let's stop the music. Glad everybody is here. It's gonna be a fun one. We got deals, we got people, we are ready to go. Let's drive some more people into the room. Again, glad you guys are here. It's gonna be a great time, fun time. Ed, how are you doing, man? How was the day, bro?
I'm doing amazing. Another fun day to talk to you guys, to underwrite some deals, of course. And
I feel like tonight's gonna be different for you because you're gonna be doing something that you don't do normally, which is underwrite deals. I think this is a real special occasion for you, right? Like
$1 for every time I underwrote a deal, I wouldn't need to underwrite anymore.
yeah, you probably won't even need multifamily, right? Just be like, listen,
Yeah, I'm chilling.
I'm good. This is all I need. But I'm glad that you're here, man, leading the charge. And it's gonna be fun. Let's get a hold of everybody. If you're on here, we're gonna start setting the tone. I know some people are new, right? But a lot of you guys are not, and we're gonna hit it straight hard. So be like my guy. Oh no, wait, who is this? Let's see. Ivy. Oh, perfect. See what Ivy just did? And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Did I pronounce it right, Ivy? Miss Ivy?
You're on mute.
I got you to unmute.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
How are you? Did I pronounce your name right?
Absolutely right.
Okay, perfect. So do like Ivy did, and she came in, she's ready to rock. She got her name, she got her area, she got her phone number. Right? If we had a deal on the table right now, in San Antonio, Texas, we already know who's in that market and who's ready. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I want you all to be able to do that, right? Go ahead, and the best way to do it is to look at the screen. And if you're on your phone, it's a little bit different, but look at the screen, go to your face. It should be the most beautiful face on here that you see. Now, you might get confused. You might be looking at my face. Find your face, go to your face, and on the top right-hand corner of your screen, click the three buttons, scroll all the way down to rename, and there you go. Gwen, thank you so much. Arizona's in the house. All right, so we got to get Dakota, Bill, we got to get you guys on here. Natasha came in ready. We got a lot of Arizona with us tonight. I love it. It's funny. I was just talking to somebody who needed help with a deal, but they're looking to move to Arizona. And so we were talking about some spots to be able to move to. I'm looking for a summer home in Arizona. And I know some of you are like, wait, aren't you in Atlanta? Yes, but Atlanta has all 4 seasons, even though it really feels like 2.5. It's really, really, really hot sometimes, or just, it doesn't make sense why it's cold. Like I feel like Atlanta sometimes tries to compete with the North to kind of as a still relevant thing, but I don't know. Anyway, I want to be able to move a little bit closer to where Ed is at without having to pay the amount of money that Ed is paying to live there. So I don't want to go to California, but Arizona seems to be, Texas is pretty good though. Texas is good, but Texas is probably my second location. And it's funny, like Ed and I, we had a meeting today with a couple other team members of ours. We were talking about different markets, different areas that we're in. It was a really good call. It went on actually longer than we expected. It was like an hour and something. But we were talking about what the market is currently doing right now, which is important. I think everybody should kind of be aware of that. If you're who's aware of what the market is currently doing right now? Like, raise your hand if you understand what's happening in the market right now. Okay, so nobody raised their hand either because they don't know what raising their hand is, or they don't know what's happening in the market. So, okay, so AJ said price reduction in part. Yep, you got that in part. Hey, Bibi. What else is happening in the market? Ed, from your viewpoint, what's happening in the market? What are you seeing take place in the market right now?
So it's funny because if I had the option, I wouldn't raise my hand either. But also, if we had the answer, we'd all be billionaires, right? We'd all be like Pete. But to be honest, the market's in a place of, I still believe, in between, like there's a gap between buyers and sellers, and I think that's something to keep in mind when putting an offer out there. And one thing that's really hard to, I'm not calling everyone here new, but when you're starting out in the multifamily space, trust me, I've analyzed hundreds of deals, and it's really hard to be like, oh, I have to just keep analyzing, keep underwriting, keep putting offers out there. But it's not a 10 offers, 100 offers, and you're going to get one. Not in this market, at least. That's my opinion. So I think the people who are going to benefit from this market and from the current situation we're in are the people who ride through this storm and just practice your craft, network, put the right people around you, come on calls like this and the other calls we have throughout the week with the Freedom Chasers community, everything from the Sunday to the Wednesday nights. Now we're gonna have something every week, so we have so many different ways to keep the community active. Obviously, that's a very big part of the theme of what we try to do here. And look, I don't want to sound like a broken record player, but this is a team sport. You know, use this opportunity to meet the people who are gonna be your business partners in 1, 2, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. You don't know, and you know, it's the idea that you're always one person away from being like a life-changing thing, and I firmly believe that. You know, it's kind of weird how we end up where we end up. Like we're all sitting here on what day is it? Tuesday night, you know, and isn't that crazy enough? Like we've never met in person. That's wild to me. So keep networking, keep practicing at your craft, and find out what you love to do and double down on it, and then find people who do what you don't like to do, and hopefully they're doubling down on it too at the same time. And 6 months from now, you can own who knows how many units, you know?
Yeah, that's official. Like, I know of, in fact, there was a gentleman I was talking to today. Briefly, we were talking via DM and was kind of going over like our journey so far. I'm telling him like where we're at and how we're starting. And he was like, well, I started the same way late last year. Well, last year. And the goal was just 50 units. And now he's at 234, I think he had mentioned. So it's more than possible if you follow the key things that you hear Ed just explained, just talked about, right? Is being able to know what those things are and push forward with those things. That's going to be the true benefit. And also, I mean, look at this guy that just came into the house, Mr. Marcel himself. What's going on, bro?
What's up, brother? You guys crushing it as every week. Amazing, man.
Well, you missed it. We actually started, and you know the song "Let's Get It On" by Marvin Gaye. Ed was singing it to us to kind of like bring us.
I don't doubt it.
That part wasn't recorded, right?
I can't wait to see the downloaded.
We charge for the performance. That's
No, we're going viral. We're going viral with that. No, for sure. We just chopping it up, man. Glad you coming in and checking in with us. Talking about where we feel the market is at right now, and Ed just gave some amazing solid game on, you know, how people their mindset should be about the market and how to be able to position themselves to take advantage with the ecosystem that we have, right? The people that are coming on like Ed was saying, like tonight, right? Out of all nights, this is the night you could miss it, right? And I don't know if people are just hiding in the bathroom or telling people that, I see BB just went to the car. I don't know if she's telling them I went to the grocery store really quick and she's just on the call. But whatever it is, that's good because you're taking and you're making the dedication that it takes to be able to connect, right, with the right people who's going to help you push forward along the way. And Marcel and his team, they're a great example of that, right? Because one of the things that I didn't realize about Marcel and Victor and Trevor, these guys, like they didn't have a relationship prior to a year ago.
Not even, bro, 6 months ago.
and you guys got connected and met through a similar style of ecosystem that you built out here, but you perfected it, I would say. And now you guys are at how many units?
40. Yeah.
40 units.
I mean, that's the ones we have done together now, right? Each has their individual, but we've been pumping out now LOIs. But everyone needs to know that to get one deal done, it's not as simple as, submit 4 LOIs. Even us, man, we're getting crushed right now, because we're only want to pay for what a property is worth. Mm-hmm. You can get deals easily right now, trust me, super easily, but you're going to overpay. So it's so important right now. We're getting crushed by people that come in, that have cash. There's still cash in the market, obviously. And we just got outbid. The last deal, we got outbid by $800,000, which it was just a 42 unit deal, right? So we were at like a 3.8 mil and we got outbid by 4 to 4.6. And our underwriting was good, So don't get discouraged. The deals are out there, but it's the consistency, right? You got to get outbid 10 times, 15, 20. Yeah. It's all worth it when the 21st one, you get that deal and you see your balance go from 0 to 40, 0 to 100. It's all worth it.
Changes everything.
Marcel, I can't stop laughing because people are gonna think we planned this. I said that right before you got on, and you repeated the same thing. So I promise, guys, we did not plan this.
Anyone here that think they planned this race, I feel like it was planned. I feel like he was texting Marcel, and it was like, "Bet I'm gonna come on right now."
Do you know what I'm most jealous about though? It's not the number of units. It would have taken me 6 months to think of a cool of a name as Freedom Chasers. Like I would have taken me 6 months just to think of that. So I'm kind of jealous you guys did that so quick. Like I'm so bad at these group names, it's not even funny.
Bro, if I tell you about the process, how this name came together, it was legitimately like 4 clowns sitting in a Zoom talking about like freedom whatever, rock stars or freedom whatever, and like it sounded like legitimately kids in a room, like trying to come up with something.
That sounds fun.
So I was like, here's the name of our boy band, everybody. But no, we definitely appreciate it. I mean, and this is a testament to what we've been talking about, right? Imagine if those 4 gentlemen did not take that opportunity seriously and come up with a name that inspired them, we wouldn't be sitting here together, right? We wouldn't be learning. We wouldn't be here on February the 14th. So if there's anyone to blame, if you're gonna get in trouble for this call, please see Marcel. I'll get you his information. I'll get you the other 4. It's their fault. But it's a great thing that they did what they did, and it all starts here. Starts with the ecosystem, right? Being able to have that in place where you now have somewhere you can go where you can get a sense of what a true community is like. And why do we say that? Well, first and foremost, there's no payment penalty here, right? You don't have to pay something in order to be able to come, learn, and give, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is everything that is being explained or taught is at the highest level of active investors in the marketplace, right? As you see, there's no course, there's no link that we're telling you guys to go to every week. This is it, right? Because we want to build a community, we want to build an ecosystem where you can grow. And as you grow, the more serious you become, the more value you now have gained, you can now invest into something deeper. You can invest into partnerships with people that you find in here that you know are also committed. And that's what happens, right? So on Sunday nights, we normally have our activation. That's probably, in my opinion, the most important Zoom. And I'll tell you why. You see, on average, most heart attacks occur between 8 and 10 p.m. on Sunday night. That's actual facts. Like, I know I'm a funny guy, but that's actual facts. Because what happens is every night, probably around 6:30, you finish eating dinner, maybe you took a nap or something, and you're like, oh man, I gotta get up because I need to prep for tomorrow. So by Sunday night, your mind is already on work, right? And so having a location where you can come and connect with like-minded individuals like the Activation Zoom, and it would be amazing if it was just those guys that was in there, but they are consistently bringing in these top tier level individuals who have, you know, double-digit thousands of units under their belts, coming in and explaining and talking to us and teaching about the market currently, where they were at, what they would do different, how you should be doing things. And I mean, I don't want to name drop. You can kind of go back and take a look who has been on, but it's been an amazing bunch of people, and that's just getting started, right? Like this thing that they've built is new, like brand spanking new. So imagine what's going to happen if you keep pushing in. And then on Mondays at 2 p.m., you have myself and you have the amazing, the great, legendary, we call him Peter MF Billionaire. And if you come to the calls, you know what the MF stands for, right? And if you haven't been on the call, you've been missing it, but I'll tell you, since you haven't been on the call, the MF stands for multifamily. We'll just leave it at that. When you're on the call, you know what that MF really stands for. He kills it, okay? This broker talks where we get live. This is live. We're talking to brokers, calling brokers, answering questions. Here's the best part. It's not just him doing it or myself. We have people that are doing it, and we're doing it live, helping them. We've had people that got stuck, don't know what to say, and we're able to join and be like, hey, listen, I'm a partner. I'm helping Jonathan, and I had another question for you, right? So it's truly, truly beneficial because you get a deal sent to you. And now once the deal is sent to you, you get to come to tonight, right? Tonight is an amazing night because we have the great Ed. And he's probably the only other Ed outside of Eddie Murphy and myself who's as amazing. And he's the underwriting king, right? Ed is one of the individuals, when I have a deal, he's one of the first individuals I go to and say, hey, tell me what you think. Does this have legs? He'll tell you, this is what he does full time. He's that committed to it. And he's taking time now to be able to go over showing us the first step of underwriting. So when you get your deal from the broker, you can now go through and underwrite the deal using the napkin. And at that point, you now take it to the next level, right? Ed will give you the steps. He'll do a phone call with you, give you the steps, what to do next, how to respond back to the broker, and et cetera. Then you take it to the next level. Now, typically, tomorrow night, we would have what we call the money call. That's when we deal with Mr. Jerry and his wife, who are going to break down, okay, you got a deal, you underwrote the deal, Ed took a look at it, it went to advanced underwriting, you did the elevated underwriting, perfect. Now, where are you going to get the money, right? How does this deal make sense? A lot of times, the deal makes sense on paper, and until you start talking to the debt broker and understanding how the money part comes in play, you realize if the deal truly is one that you're going to go after. So we normally would have that, but tomorrow is going to be different. Tomorrow we have a guest. In fact, I'm going to have Marcel kind of touch a little bit on this because this is really, really big. What's up, Aldo? This is going to be really, really big. It's a meeting we've been waiting on for some time. Okay, you know how in the movies where like you have like the young kid who's like real scrawny, but he shows promise, right? And you like, I'm gonna send him away, and he just have like sheep clothing on and like a stick, and then you like go out into the field and don't come back until you're a man. Well, Victor NG is coming back, and he is fully ready. He has a big chest now. He has an axe in his hand, and he's going to break some stuff down for us. And Marcel, I'll let you tell exactly what he's going to be doing tomorrow.
Yeah, guys. So we've been planning for this now for probably a month and a half, I would say, right? We were thinking about what can we do, next level thing, right? Next step. And Victor, as you know, we all should do, and I know what Eddy is doing, and Ed is doing that as well. We further educate ourselves so that we can bring it also back to the community, right? And Victor has been doing that as well on the underwriting side, and man, he's bringing back some deeper knowledge and educating on a deeper level that I haven't seen out there yet, to be honest. I've seen it in high ticket mentorships, but I haven't seen it openly at all. And what he's doing tomorrow is he's actually diving into how to analyze a market, because I tell you, it's easy. Actually, it's not easy, but let's say you find a deal that works. Okay, let's just say you find a deal that works, although it might not be easy. But now you get all pumped up, the numbers work out, and then you realize, or you not realize, man, the market sucks. The market is declining, you know. So now it's not a deal anymore, right? Because if the market goes down, there's certain metrics in it. You know, obviously, you can look at rent. That's simple. But let's look at absorption. How many units are being delivered by developers to the market? How many are actually being absorbed? If there is less being absorbed than that are delivered, what does that mean? Your occupancy goes down. What does it mean if your occupancy goes down? Your average rent goes down. You're not going to have an organic rent increase, right? These kind of things is what Victor is going to talk about tomorrow, because really that should be your number one starter. What market am I looking at? Why am I looking at this market? And what are the metrics in this market? Because I tell you, if you go talk to a broker on Monday with billionaire MF Pete, for example, and you tell that broker why you're looking in that market because 1, 2, 3 metric is looking promising, I tell you, they're already taking you a lot more serious, as if you just go there and say like, yeah, I live 30 minutes away, so that's why I'm interested. So I'm super excited for Victor tomorrow to go into that in a little bit more detail, because I don't see it much out there, you know. And yeah, well, bro, I'm a little bit sick, but it's only temporary. We pushed through it, and we're still showing up. Let's go.
Man. That's amazing, man. Like, not only is he here on Valentine's night, but the guy has been sick. He's been under the weather, and he's still deciding to come out and give game. And what he's saying is true. All right. This high level of, I mean, Ed could tell you, it not only costs a lot of money. This isn't something that you can just get on YouTube, but also in addition to that, it typically takes a long time, let alone to be able to like discuss it with someone and teach it, right? So it's something that the team in the background has been planning and working on, and we're super excited. I really, really hope that if you are serious about your business, you make sure you show up tomorrow, and you make sure you bring a friend. The one thing I will say is, and this is how I feel about everything, is have proper expectation. I do not want anyone showing up tomorrow night, and before you start, you go like this, right? You know how you crack your knuckles and everything, and then you say, all right, bet. You grab your pen, and then you grab your piece of paper, and say, all right, Victor, tell me everything I need to know. And then all of a sudden now, you think you've mastered advanced underwriting. It is not gonna work. Tomorrow is not to get anyone to understand in the full sense. Now, if you have like Aldo, for example, right? Or Ed, right? These guys are probably gonna see some things tomorrow and be like, oh, okay, perfect. And now they're adding that up to their game. But these guys are what I consider pros, okay? Even myself, I am not a pro at underwriting. I can napkin underwrite the hell out of a deal. Now, if you tell me to go to the next level, I'm gonna tell you, I'm passing it. I will alley-oop that thing real fast, and I am not ashamed of it. And I'm saying this because I want you guys to understand you don't have to play every position on the team. This is really, really important. A lot of you guys are not gonna succeed because you're trying to do the whole entire thing. And what you really need to do is do exactly what I'm seeing in the chat right here, right? I'm seeing people putting their superpower. I'm seeing, okay, you know what? Here, I want to, Miss Lynn, are you able to unmute and talk? I want to get started, but I really want to have her come up real quick because this is a person that's showing you she is not playing games. Let me see if are you able to unmute? Let me see.
Are you talking to me? I'm
I
sorry.
am. Yes. How are you?
Oh, good, good. Sorry, I was not prepared.
I want to pull you up, right? Because not only did you come into the chat, you got your email on there, which is perfect. So if I need to get in contact with you, I can, right? I see your email. I see your phone number, and I don't know what market you're in. That's the one thing I would say.
I put it in the chat.
I was just
I
about
put
to
it in
say,
the chat.
but
Yes.
in the chat, if you guys go look, she put, currently she has 218 doors. She said her superpower is connector and deal sourcer, motivator, and investor relations. And then she put what she's looking for. She's looking to team up with an exceptional, experienced capital raiser, investor, et cetera, et cetera. So she is looking for a team to be able to connect with. She's putting it in the chat. This is how powerful this community is, guys. Right? You really don't have another place in this space where you can do this. And you can squat up and partner with people who are looking and ready to work with you guys. So I really appreciate you doing that. I want everybody to do that. If you're not doing that, you're missing that. My guy Aldo, you see he put in there Birmingham, Knoxville. Like, this is what this is about. All right. Now we're gonna get down and dirty with it. It's napkin time. And here's what I want to do before we jump into like any of our deals that we might have set up for you guys to kind of look at. Last week we did a napkin underwriting on a triple net lease style of a deal. So basically it's a deal that has both residential rentals and it has some retail stores on it. How to be able to look at that and underwrite it. And Ed killed that, showed the game. So this week we're going to do our normal underwriting. But I want to see, is there anyone here who has a deal that they need help underwriting and they want us to do the napkin underwriting for them? And we can do it live right now. If you have a deal, all right, there we go. I would say just put your hand up. All right, so we got Aldo that has one, Vince has one, perfect. Well, we're running through. I saw Vince has his hand up first. So Vince, I'm gonna have you come up and talk to us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, man. So I'm gonna spotlight you. I'm gonna spotlight Money Man Ed over here. All right, so tell us a little bit about the deal itself. And then before he does, does everyone here have your napkin? Did you bring your napkin tonight? If you did not bring a napkin, please let me know so I can put the link in the chat for you so you can follow along. This really isn't worth it if you can't follow along. All right, so make sure you have that. All right, so Vince, tell us about the deal. And let me see, Ed, you want to put your info in the chat so you can send over everything? Or Ed, do you want him to just tell you the details? That might be good. Let me just tell you the details.
You can tell it to me and then we can go from there. And if there's any questions, you can go through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ed, you should be able to share your calls. You good?
Let's try. Yep.
All right, Vince. So tell us a little bit about the deal. First, where'd you get the deal from? Why, and in part of what Ed and what Marcel was saying, let's also talk about it, right? Why are you in this market? Right? Is it just you plan? If you just say, hey, look, I just want to host other things, that's it. You don't really care what market is there, right? But if you're like, hey, I like this market, this is why I'm in it. It's because of X, Y, and Z, etc. Let's hear all of that.
Yeah. So this deal came from a broker. It is located in Louisville, Tennessee. It's actually a broker that I have a personal connection with. I actually used to work with his son a while back. Was talking with his son about my new venture. He was like, "Oh, hey, my dad actually, runs a brokerage firm across several states." So got connected with the father, let him know kind of what I'm looking for. And this is an off-market deal. It's a 150 unit 1970s multifamily out in Louisville, Kentucky. So to be totally transparent, I wasn't looking specifically in the Louisville market, but it is a decent market. It is close to some other major cities, so it is a bit of a secondary, tertiary market, which kind of fits the general idea of what I'm looking for. And the thing that kind of makes it a little bit tricky, though, at least for me from an underwriting perspective, is that this is a property that was somewhat recently acquired by another group. They've only had it for about 7 months, so there's only a T7. They've been going through essentially and doing the value add play. From what I've heard from the broker, they want to get their money out to put that into a development project. So it's not kind of cut and dry like, hey, we've got a full year of rent roll. We've got all these nice metrics that you can kind of easily put into your underwriting to figure out, hey, does this work for me or not? I've tried underwriting it myself and didn't get necessarily the numbers I was expecting. And again, I think I'm trying to annualize a T7 into a T12, which is a little bit tricky for me, given that I haven't done this very much.
Okay, awesome. So that's really good feedback. I love that. Actually, that was really good feedback. I guess my question is more so, what are your thoughts? Because I really want you guys to start thinking about these type of things. So I want to know, what is your thought when it comes to this particular deal, right? They just brought it, barely in it 7 months. Now they want to take their money out and go into what sounds like maybe a better deal, right? So it's like, okay, why? Like, what's so wrong with this one that 7 months later you're like, hey, this isn't really worth it? Is there any thought process from what the broker told you on that?
So he didn't give much detail around the why, other than they want to move that capital into another project, ideally. And it was a bit of a orange flag for me, I guess you'd say. Like, hey, if you spend all this money to go acquire a property and 7 months later, you're like, hey, you gotta pull the ripcord and get out of this. It is a little concerning. Taking a look at the big picture, I mean, the property itself is decent. They flipped some units. There's still plenty of meat on the bone to continue kind of that improvement plan. In the area, there are nicer, higher value, already redone kind of value added properties in, probably the like 2 or 3 square miles. So like there's other folks who are, doing similar stuff in the area. It's close to a major airport. It's close to major hubs for commerce. So like the market itself, doesn't seem to be having any red flags for me. I just kind of had to go off the broker's word of, hey, they have a better opportunity somewhere else. I get that. But it definitely did throw a little bit of a flag for me of like, okay, you haven't even been in this for a year. It does seem a little bit odd to say like, hey, we gotta kind of cut and run.
Okay, let's do it.
So I got a few questions to start with, and these are things to consider anytime you see something as quick of a turnaround as this, but also not only the quick turnaround, but the idea of this other project, because development properties don't just happen overnight. My first question is, what did they purchase it at, and what are they trying to resell it at?
So they purchased it about 10.5, and they are they're asking for 13.5.
Okay.
Excuse me, 13,350. Apologies.
Do you know if they do they have an inspection report from when they purchased it?
Not that was shared with me.
Okay, so that's something that I would ask them if you can see beforehand, because let's be honest, if it passed inspection enough for them to purchase it, and they have nothing to hide, they should share with you too. Now, are you going to do your own inspection report? Absolutely, but you kind of get an inside look of what the properties looks like before you even underwrite it. Because now like, do I need to spend any time on this? Are there any initial red flags that I should consider into my price or negotiation right off the bat? It definitely allows you to be able to get an idea of, all right, what is this all about? Like, what were the issues? Inspection report, survey report, no inspection, I don't know, survey might be the same thing, but inspection is like you, at least when we do an inspection, you go into every single unit. I don't care if there's 1,000 units, you're going into every single one, and you're
Yeah.
making sure every single unit is what they say it is. For example, I've heard of stories where, oh, this unit you can't see, and then you close escrow, you open the door, and it's nothing in there, or it's a mess, or it's a storage, or it needs a bunch of rehab work. So inspection is like you would get on a regular home inspection, you're just doing it for a massive multifamily building with multiple units. So that's what I mean by the inspection report. Survey, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that more ground level stuff? Like probably someone will know better than that. Okay. So regarding that, and then another question I had was, what have they done since they've purchased it?
Yeah, so they said they put in about 600,000, or sorry, 500,000 of kind of renovations since acquiring. So interiors, they kind of give a summary. So they've got paint, interior, vinyl plank flooring, upgraded LED lighting units, cabinet faces, countertops, bathroom vanities, bathtubs, and tub finishes. And then from an exterior, they've got electric panel upgrade, HVAC, new water heaters, seal and stripe parking lot, some landscaping signage, plumbing repairs, and minor repairs to doors and facade.
Okay.
So they have kind of a breakdown sheet of what kind of has been expended so far, and it comes out to about 508,000.
Got it. Do they have an existing loan or assumable loan?
It is not a assumable loan.
Got it. Do you know what that loan amount is regardless?
It should be in here. I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Okay, so now the interesting part comes down to is, does $508,000 worth of work justify a 13 million or $3 and change $1 million difference in price? So essentially what the question that has to be asked. Have they changed or do you have like the documents as well with the property of like the
Which documents is that?
rent roll?
Yeah, so what was shared with me was essentially the rent roll for the prior 12 months before they took over, the current rent roll, and then they gave a T7 essentially for the 7
Perfect.
months since they've acquired it.
Perfect. You said you want to go through the T7. You can actually just email that to me. That might be easier because then I could share it on the screen. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Let me see here. I'm looking for your email address.
I just sent it.
Okay, perfect. I will share it with you right now.
So when you're looking at T7, again, you might have different opinions on this, but at least when you're looking at it initially, having 7 months of information isn't the end all be all. Like if it was 2 months, yeah, I'd be a little concerned. 7 months is like, okay, I've seen enough where it's not so little that I can't make a judgment call on it, but also not like where, okay, it's not 12, which would be ideal, but are you really looking at those first 5 months anyway? Most of the time I'm not. I care more about what is it today, and when it comes to expenses and why you care about a T12 is because you want to know, like, okay, the CapEx, when they did it, you need it spread out, and it has to be a bigger sample size so that one CapEx doesn't kill your numbers, or something like your property tax and insurance. You want to make sure that all is in the data so that you can follow that, and you want to see if there's any fluctuation. That's a big one. Like if 7 months ago your rent randomly doubles, it's like, okay, what happened? The T12 tells a story, but if you're going based off of what the property's worth or what you situation you're buying into, obviously, that's what it is today. What it was a year ago doesn't help you necessarily. Shoot, we're not even comparing the market to a year ago, yet alone what a building was like a year ago. But you do want to see what that entails. Like, what does what was occupancy? What has been the big changes in the building and the costs and the repairs? Because those are all things that are eventually going to possibly be your headache. Which no one wants to buy someone else's problems.
And just to be clear, a lot of deals that are being pushed out right now is somebody else's problems, right? Like people are trying to get rid of something that was a really good buy a few months ago before all this change in the cap rate and market and interest and all that, right? And so now that you have this thing is taking place, yes, people do want to be more liquid so that they can go and get better deals that are on their way or coming out as time continues to progress. So definitely be mindful of that. All right, so Ed, tell us what you're looking at for someone who's never seen this before.
I'm trying to get it to load a little better. There we go. Cool. So this is technically your T7 from June to December. Normally this would be filled out to 1 year back. Like we're just discussing, it's not necessarily the case. The heck is going on?
And the T stands for trailing.
Yeah.
So essentially it's the past numbers of the property. So you could have a deal where you say, hey, can I get the T12? And I say, we don't have any. We only have a T3. Or what's other thing that's happening that's very common is you could get a deal where someone is trying to still sell this deal. Ed, how many deals have you looked at recently that were trying to be sold since like last year sometime?
It's happening more and more often. There's one that I had sent an LOI on, was in heavy discussions with back in September. I got an email about it today.
Right.
There's some passed on in August, and I still getting them back today.
So these are those type of deals that at the time when they were trying to be sold, there was a T12 available. But now there's at least 3-4 months. You want to know, hey, what's your updated, you can't say T12s, right? You say, what's the updated T3, right? Or T4. Anything of that is going to be valid and you should know to ask for that. But we're going on a T12 and that's what T stands for, the trailing.
And real quick question as well, Vince. Did you put these numbers in or did they?
I did. So yeah, that whole U column is me essentially trying to annualize. So I took the total that they had there, divided by 7 and multiplied by 12, just to get like an average annualized. I'm not sure if I was doing that right, but that was kind of what I could think to do to try to make this work as a T12 based on what they provided.
Yeah, and you're not wrong in doing so. And where that does actually help is, I always say this when I'm looking at numbers, when it comes down to figuring out expense ratio, I do want to look at the full year because I want to see all the expenses that can be that they had in the past 12 months. Because if I'm only doing the expenses for 1 month, there's too many variables that can happen month to month that you want to have a bigger sample size. So now, of course, your expenses aren't going to be exactly carbon copy of the month to month, but it's better than not having. You know, it's close enough. See, just from here, your expenses, you can see the big variation month to month. How does NOI decrease?
Expenses. And again, that last column is me, so I may not be.
Where'd you get the 987 from? So you did U40 to.
And if you're watching this and you're lost by any stretch of the means, please either say something or just type a question in the comments, and we'll make sure to get to you too. We definitely don't want to leave anybody behind. It doesn't matter if you know what's going on, if you're brand new. We got you.
All right. So one thing I'm going to look at is I won't be using the 12-month configuration you did. I'm just going to be using what they have for their total. This is their total, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So column up to S is everything that was provided from them.
So right off the jump, we always say you want to be able to figure out the expense ratio. Now, I will never underwrite. 99% of the time, I will not underwrite using the expense ratio that they currently show on their T12. Can anyone guess why right off the jump?
It's probably low.
Well, if the T12, sorry. There you go.
All trying to minimize their expenses and underreported.
Well, so yeah, well, hopefully not. See, I'm trying to. If everything's like morally correct and you trust the broker and the seller's not trying to weasel their way into more dollars, I hope not. But Aldo nailed it. It's the taxes, insurance, because the same taxes they're paying, you're not. That's your first jump in price. Insurance, especially you ask anyone nowadays, especially in Texas or Southwest or anywhere that's been affected by weather or anything like that. And actually, you can just talk about the US as a whole. Things are just costing more. So everyone's charging more for everything, you know, from the water bottle at the gas station to insurance, you know. So you don't want to rely on what they're paying today, because that doesn't mean you're paying that tomorrow. They don't even know if they're going to pay that tomorrow, and they own the building, you know. So I would never underwrite it at that number, because sure, what happened in the last 12 months is great, but what's going to happen tomorrow to these expenses that you have to factor in when you're running your numbers, because that's going to affect your bottom line, right? So if this is 37, I will probably underwrite it at 42 to 45, depending once I dive deeper into the T12. Now, I'm not going to go that far into it today, because that defeats the purpose of the napkin, and I don't want to lose too many people on that one. But for anyone that does send in like the napkin underwriting, and we do a deeper dive, I will go line by line and explain why I think X is like a question mark, right? Because these are all conversations you want to have with a broker. And as we mentioned on Monday's broker outreach, if you have access to this stuff by like downloading it on Crexy or LoopNet or whatever online market source you plan to use, this is a great way to get on the phone, have a conversation with the broker and be like, okay, I'm questioning this, and this. Because then you guys are talking about that so much, for anyone that gets nervous on the phone, you lose those nerves because you're controlling the conversation. You're trying to get answers about a deal that you want to purchase. And if they answer them properly and you know what you're talking about by pointing out the different nuances and why one number is something that it shouldn't be in your opinion, the conversation will just flow much more smooth. So yeah, let me get back to this real quick. Here's another thing that I tend to do that you want to look out for as well, and it does affect the amount of opportunity you may have on a specific building. You mentioned they did a lot of revenue or like rehab and capex and whatnot. I would be curious to see what the rents were like before, and honestly possibly curious to see what they underwrote it before. Like, what is their, like, did they just fill these units? Like, oh, it's 7 months, we're just trying to fill these as fast as we can so we could sell it. Who cares how the tenant behaves? It's not our problem anyway. Think about it, they haven't had a tenant for a full cycle. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So if we were to just take the average rent of the past month, what is the unit count? Oh, you're on mute.
150.
150, cool. So they're averaging 893, right? And then the other question you want to ask yourself is, what is my upside from here? Like they spent 500 some odd thousand and they got to 893. What do I need to spend to get it higher than that? And is there enough work to be done where I can increase the rent? Because that's basically what our goal is. Our objective is to value add. Unless you're getting at a price where, hey, maybe this is worth 15 million, you're getting at 13. Okay, cool, we can talk. But what else needs to be done on here? Do you know if they have a remaining budget left on their CapEx?
I do not.
Okay. So here, because you're gonna have this document, like I could see you being shared on it. Any CapEx budget that they did not get to.
So I hope this is like serving as a good example of primarily one main thing. No two deals are alike, which is why you need to understand how to do worst case scenario or least case, how to do the napkin underwriting. You have to understand its full capacity of it, because you have certain deals that, you know, because of the scenario surrounding the deal, there's certain questions that you may need to know to ask or whatever. But again, when you partner with someone, doesn't have to be Ed. There's plenty of people in here that are great at underwriting. Bibby's amazing at underwriting. Reach out to someone who can help you after you've done your napkin. Because once you get through the napkin, you may realize, oh, this isn't a good deal at all, right? Then there's no point in trying to go deep dive. But this is really good points that Ed is making in showing you how you should start to change your mind, your thought process on, okay, here's all the numbers, let me just punch the numbers in. You gotta poke the hole through what they're talking about in the numbers that make you feel this is a good deal, let's take it a next step further. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Vince, is this working for you so far?
Yeah, a quick question for you, Ed. So I saw that you just did what is it? Essentially the income minus the loss. They have that in there as a negative already. So would you still be subtracting that? I guess what are you trying to calculate there?
So I'm happy. I was just gonna talk about that. So I'm happy you brought up, because what I want to do is the vacancy loss. Like vacancy is anywhere from 5 to 7, 10%, right? What I wanted to do is see the number they have here with the loss to lease and the vacancy loss is plus their current rent is what they think this is at maximized potential. They're essentially telling you like, hey, best case scenario, if I'm at 100% at the highest possible price, I want to make sure that, or like this is the number we can get, which is that 169,152. Okay. And you can see the difference. That's a pretty substantial difference, right? And another thing to remember is if you're underwriting this number and then you factor this in again, your underwriting calculator and potentially, or napkin underwriting one as well, and potentially the one you use after that might be deducting it as well. So you don't want to double dip in that sense. And that's, so guys, one point I really want to make, and I know it could get very tedious as well, and there's a lot of detail involved, is you really want to know what numbers they are factoring in and how they are getting to the number they're getting on their T12. I can bring out 100 brokers and they might tell you 50 different ways they prepare this, and actually more likely 75. It gets a little, like, you have to be careful because, for example, I'll give you something I saw the other day. Someone put their expenses, they put their mortgage, interest of their payment. It's good to know that information, but what happens now if I'm underwriting it, I'm factoring that mortgage again, their interest payments. Now all of a sudden it's the same, I'm doubling up on their number, the deal's never gonna work. If you're multiplying your debt by 2, that you're done, like the deal's dead. You don't even waste your time, you know? So that's why it's really important to know what are they putting into the T12 and does it belong? Like, does it add up? Does it make sense? And that's what I'm saying. If we go line by line, I'm pretty sure we can find other things where it's like, hey, watch out for that, look out for this. Why is there a difference here? Why is it so much greater here than there, right? We're not gonna do that right now because we'll be here all night. Well, not necessarily, but you get what I mean. So, but we got the main information we wanted with this. And here's another thing. This is an important line to look at too. Whose fault is this bad debt? Like, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but just as off of the first few lines, you notice how many things that I have questions about, right?
Mhm.
We're on the same, like, bad debt's essentially like you're not getting that back. How much more is left of it? You know? So these are important things to consider when you're running through a T12 or T3 or T whatever, it doesn't matter. It could be a 1 month snapshot. At the end of the day, these are things that you're gonna have to take a look at, right? So we have 893 here. 11. Let's go with their number. Just unless you have the market rent. Do you have that?
I believe they did provide that. So the average market rent they have across the 2 unit types is not, or I guess potential is 940.
940. Okay. Interesting. So you have a $40 upside. We don't know this number. Number of units is 150. Do you know what the current occupancy is?
They had it at just doing a 5% vacancy, so 95%.
And then what the heck happened here? There we go.
Darn.
What happened here? Eddie, do you have the new links to the napkin? I think I have. I'm playing with the wrong one. Like these formulas got mixed up. But if not, I can fix it.
Yeah, I do. Here, I'll put
Okay.
it in I'll send it to you directly. It's easier to see it.
All right, cool. So I'll be able to just plug into that one. And then let me real quick go back to this.
Yeah, just send it to you.
Cool.
And Rennie, I hope you got I answered your comment there. So this is for anybody, when you guys are getting deals from brokers, something that Ed taught me early in the game, right? Trust the broker, but verify, okay? At the end of the day, they are trying to make a sale, period. Okay, now if you aren't educated enough to spot certain things, that's not on them. Now, a broker may send you something, and in their heart of hearts, know full well that what they're sending you is not right. It's no different sometimes for agents who take a deal that they list, and I mean, Ed knows this, right? People will list a deal for somebody, knowing good and well that the house is not going to sell, and it's definitely not going to sell at that price, but they still list it, right? Now, if you come in and you pay that price, they're not gonna say, no, I think you're overpaying, right? They make more commission, right? So you have to be the one that's kind of like, don't insult anybody, because this is about building a relationship. Multifamily space is really, really small, believe it or not. So you don't want to ruin your name, but you do want to check some people like, hey, my underwriter just went through this deal. It looks like it's overpriced by $2 million. I thought we probably were just missing something. Could you break it down? Like, why is it priced at this price? Right? And let them play hot potato and try to figure out what mess they're gonna tell you, right? Like they gotta either be honest, or they're gonna tell you, well, this deal is where Mickey Mouse died, and that's why it's cost $2 million more. Okay, perfect. I get that. I understand that, right? I'm not paying it, but hey, I definitely get it. So Jen just said something. That's a huge oversight, right? $2 million plus. You will be surprised how people choose to underwrite deals. Like they'll add things to make it look better that normally you wouldn't add to the bottom line, right? So there's certain things certain expenses or certain holdbacks that they would have. They're just pushing in there just to make it look sexy. It's your job to be able to sift through and be like, this isn't how I would run it. This isn't how my friend would run it. And so therefore, something's up, something's wrong, right? Find the holes. And if you're an underwriter or you want to be a great underwriter, which is an amazing asset to have, one of the main things that you should naturally have is like, I like naturally finding problems. I like poking the holes in people's projects, right? Like if you're the guy or girl in the classroom where you had a group assignment and somebody worked on something and they came and like, hey y'all, here's what we can do. And you were the person that was like, that's stupid, let me tell you why. And you're just like going at them like that, you would be an amazing underwriter if you like numbers. Because that's what underwriters' main job is, right? If I get excited about a deal, that's okay. Ed is never truly excited about a deal. He relies on the numbers. And if the numbers are nice, then you're gonna see happy Ed, right? But outside of that, he care less. He don't care if Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, all of them are buried on that property. He doesn't give one damn. He needs to make sure the numbers make sense. Aldo is right. The underwriter's job is to burst all the bubbles. All right? We said just act will. And it's the truth. The thing about it is, if the underwriter is on your team, you want that. Okay, the team's job is to have each other's back. So I don't want Ed to lie to me. I don't want Ed to be like, well, last time I felt like I hurt his feelings when I told him this deal really sucks and he really liked it. So you know what? Let me just tell him this deal is doable. No, burst the bubble, right? Because the worst thing that you can do in this space is purchase a deal, commit the money, and then 6 months, like these guys, 6-7 months later, they're like, hey man, let's see if we can sell this. I don't like this deal no more. This is the hardest thing to do, because as soon as they post this bad boy, everybody's like, why are you trying to sell it? What's wrong? Something's wrong. And if you are trying to sell it, you best believe we're not paying market price. We about to get the discount as much as we can possibly get, right? So definitely make sure you're chin checking your brokers, and make sure you have an underwriter that is not afraid to hurt your feelings, because all y'all feelings are gonna get hurt 7 months later when you're like, I really hate this deal. I hate waking up in the morning. That's not why you got into this. Go ahead, Ed.
And that doesn't only pertain to the underwriting. That should be the thought process through all of escrow. One of the mentorships I'm part of, one of the operations guys says it every time. The day we sign the PSA to enter escrow, we are trying to kill the deal every day until it closes. Well, until due diligence, because after that point, you don't want to kill the deal. You want to make sure you did your due diligence properly. But you get my point. The reason being is that if it passes every test, like it's like if a heavyweight fighter is going into a fight, he's not going to prepare fighting guys half his size. He's not gonna win. You're gonna get to the big fight, and you're gonna be dead in the water. But if you fight the baddest of the bad every day, at the end of it, you're like, oh, this is easy. Like we've checked all our boxes, right? I'm an MMA fan, sorry. For anyone who didn't get the reference, but you guys know what I'm saying. So, like, for example, this one, ironically enough, the numbers don't look terrible. Like we've seen worse, trust me. Now, this is something where I would be like, okay, let's dive a little deeper into the T12 or 7 in this case. Let's look at the market rents in the area. Let's look at the opportunities. I think that's a fun part about anyone that does underwriting. The fun part about going through the T12 is seeing other areas of opportunity that you can add income or reduce expenses. Because that's all this is. This whole bottom line and this number all comes from your difference in expenses and income. So this is a great example, and I'm happy you brought it to us. And I know you said we don't know CapEx. Leaving it at 5,000 is better safe than sorry. But also remember that it's not gonna, like, don't worry about this number too much if you don't have it. When you're doing a napkin, that's more important on the deeper dive. If it was fully occupied, would you still underwrite at 95? I would underwrite it at 9. Okay, so here's where it's important to look. So this is current occupancy rate. I would underwrite it at what they have it at the moment, with the idea and keeping in mind that if the units need rehab and you're doing a value add, and it's a month-to-month lease. So let me say that again, so I don't go like overlook that. You want to underwrite their current property of what it is today, which is if it's 100% occupied, it's 100% occupied. But you don't want a 100% occupied building with low rents whose leases were all signed yesterday. Like if the broker's telling me, oh, you have $500,000 worth of rehab you need to do on the units itself. And they're like, oh, but all your leases were signed a month ago. You're like, well, I can't get any of them out. So for 11 months, you're stuck with those tenants in place. And I don't care what state you're in at that point, coming from a guy who lives in California, if a lease is signed, you're not getting them out. And if you are, it's not worth the cost, to be honest. So I would underwrite it as to day one, yes, it's 100% occupied. Moving forward, though, if you want to be aggressive with your rent, which every one of us should be, I would say 5 to 7% vacancy. So that's why Aldo asked, for anyone wondering, but you do want to underwrite it with today's occupancy because that's information you want to know up front when looking at the deal. You want to look at the full picture. Another thing, and this goes into the deeper underwriting too, is how much rehab needs to be done and how quickly can you do it. Obviously, you're going to try to do it as soon as possible, but you're obviously not going to do, let's say, 40 units in 1 year even, or in one cycle of rehab. It's going to be 3 months here, 2 months here. You know what I mean? So that's another thing to think about, where not all leases end at the same time either. So this is a deal that I would actually like to get on a call with you and be like, hey, let's dive into this. Let's look at this at a deeper level. Do you know if they have the OM for the new listing or they have the old one?
I can ask. I don't know if they've put together. So they have like a financial summary they shared. There wasn't a full OM. At least
no worries.
At the time. It was freshly on the market, or freshly off market, I guess.
Yeah. I'd also be curious to know if they have an existing rent roll of the past month or past few months, ideally, or actually current rent roll, let's say, and see how many
they have.
You do.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so they shared two. They shared the current rent roll as of January 31st this year, as well as the rent roll at takeover back in May of last year.
Yeah, so I would want to look at that for the simple fact that I'm curious what they put in, what tenants they put in, the condition of those units, and how much they asked for rent. So I think that's a very interesting angle too, to see how they managed it, and kind of when they realized they want to get out of that. Matthew has a question.
Matthew, can you unmute? I've been trying to.
Can you hear me on this?
There you go. Yeah, there was two of you, so I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So it seems kind of basic, but figuring average rents, like I'm looking at a property that this is kind of off the topic, but I figure since we're talking napkin style, there's 2 units that they're not using that they're using for showings, like models. So instead of it being like 100 units, would we average that on 98 units of the current rents? Or are you just doing the current, like the total current rents divided by the current, like total paid ins?
So when you're looking at just the numbers, I'm looking at it as, if I'm taking the average rent and I'm multiplying by my number of units, I needed to make sure that I'm factoring in every rentable unit, or just factor into your vacancy. Like automatically these 2 are out of, let's say if it's a 100-unit building, 2 units are model, then I'm automatically adding 2% of vacancy onto my vacancy percentage, because you want it to reflect on your underwriting with the income. Like obviously
Right.
1 or 2 units is not going to be the difference between it being a great deal and a bad deal, in my opinion. If it is, then the problems. But for the sake of argument, like for the sake of the question, you do want to make sure that you're not underwriting as like add 5% vacancy on top of that, let's say, you know, because you already off the bat are not marketing 2 of them. So that's something to keep in mind. For example, think of this. What if you have an office space? You're never going to rent that unit. Obviously, it's not ready to rent, even if you want to. So I personally don't factor an office into my calculations because I can't make money on it. Simple as that.
And then how about if we have some mixed space, so there's like 5 commercial spaces and they're all currently leased on 10-year leases. Would you add any vacancy on that? Because if one's gone, it's 20% vacancy. If there's 5.
So regarding the vacancy, again, it depends on the lease itself. Let's say they're all signed on the same day and they're 5-year leases, hypothetically. Then at that point, you're just doing a vacancy based on the total building and the income. So at the end of the day, it's what percentage of the entire building is vacant. You know, if I have 100 units and I have 5 additional commercial, well, it's not 1 out of 5 is vacant. It's all of them are vacant. You do a deeper dive in regards to the numbers of a commercial property and the residential split once you go into deeper underwriting, because up front, I just want to know, does the income coming in and the expenses going out, does that number make sense for us long term? Obviously, you're going to have to look into the leases a little bit because it'll tell you their rate increases. It'll tell you when those happen. It'll tell you options. For example, the property we were looking at last week, the CVS covered majority of expenses, but they are also a headache on the upside long term because they didn't allow the current owners to build above them. So it's just like a give and take with any CVS or any commercial space. So to answer the question is, I would look at it still as a whole because it's still income coming in, and then the vacancies, it comes down to that specific building. Unfortunately, like I can't give you a rule of thumb, but you just have to look into the lease and see when does it end, and is that area going to be somewhere where it might be easy to fill? Like, is it a hot downtown where foot traffic's high? Well, then you won't have a problem filling it. Minus some like PI stuff that any new tenant would do, which was the case on the property we're looking at. They're doing 3 months of PI with no rent. That's fine. I have a buddy here, one of my close friends, opening up a restaurant. He hasn't paid rent in almost 2 years because of the TI and the city issues. It's not his fault. That's not the landlord's fault. But at the end of the day, that's rent that's not being brought in. The lender's not going to care.
Okay, got it.
Awesome. Good.
And then regarding, real quick, there's a question. Banks will not underwrite for 100% occupancy and not loan for more than 95. The underwriting for the 100% is if there's 100% occupied right now, and you can show on the rent roll that every door is filled, that just is what it is right now. But most banks aren't gonna underwrite a property. Let me word this carefully. Most banks are gonna be like, oh, it's 100% occupied now, it's gonna be 100% occupied forever. That's not the case. I agree with you there. They're never gonna occupy 100% all the time. But if it's like, hey, you have this much income because every unit is rented, then that's something that they're gonna be like, okay, that's gonna factor into the equation, because like we've been talking about, that affects when you can bring rents up. They're not gonna just look at the occupancy number, they're gonna look at how much are those rents and when are those leases finishing to where you can increase the rent. They're underwriting it the same way we are. Where's the value add? Does it make sense? Can these people do it? Great question.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that, like, if I might jump in on that, but I also, like, I gotten some that they got like a waiting list, and after I look at the numbers, I go, okay, well, you got a waiting list because of the price that you have your units for, or you have a waiting list because of, you know, X or, and then a lot of times when you compare the price that you can increase to, you kind of go like, okay, well, is this waiting list going to work out for that price, or are they just waiting for the cheaper price?
Exactly.
You know, so it's kind of, that's the same thing about the 100%. It's like, you got to look at those numbers and go, okay, well, you're 100% because of rent being that low, or you're 100% because of rent is sustainable, you know, you can increase it and continue to be 100%. And I think that's why, like, in my point of view, I look at it more like maybe underwrite it at 80% occupancy or something like that instead of 100, because, you know, like I said before, you know, you kind of got to kind of look at it as, well, do you have that many people in there because of what you're in right now, or because they can afford to pay what the, you know, what the real, you know, payment should be? So it's kind of like, maybe I'm thinking too much into it or whatever, but that's
No,
kind of
you're
what,
right.
when I
There's
see the
different ways
numbers,
you
I kind of
can-
look at it that way. So
There's different ways you can kind of play with it to give you that projection that you're looking for. Like, hey, if we're at 85, well, what is it really at, or et cetera, et cetera. Typically, they'll tell you exactly how many units is rented out. And we're talking just Napkin, you can just go based off of that, right? Now, when you deep dive, you can get the validity of, is it really 80% occupied? Tell me why. And you can see that also in the rent rolls too, right? And in this particular case, all the information wasn't really provided yet. So we did 100 just for the sake of showcasing, like, best case scenario. This whole thing is like packed out. This is what we're looking at, but that's not what typically he would go according to, because it's a short period of time that they actually had the property for. He would actually be going back and taking into consideration, you know, even it being 100% occupied, that's actually a bad thing because of what he said before. Like, it keeps you locked in to tenants that are paying the lower rate, to what you were saying already. So just to kind of clear that up so people don't think, okay, do I need to put it at 100%, or what should I set it at? Just set it at whatever the actual occupancy rate is. You only change it if you're looking at more so of a speculation of what the actual number is, or what it could be based off of what you're trying to accomplish.
There's another question here. Do you ask for a discount when numbers do not add up? Do you mean in regards to the price? Is that what you're referring to? So I will never, I don't consider the asking price. I only use the asking price as a reference point, not to go over that number. The same way I don't ever offer something and expect them to agree right away. I don't think any broker in the multifamily space ever lists a property thinking they're gonna get that price. At least I hope not, because if they do, they're being very optimistic. I don't care. Well, I don't want to say I don't care, but in today's market, obviously 7 months ago, 8 months ago, when the market was a truck on fire driving through the city, you could get away with that. Like, of course, 100%. I'm not going to question that. Today's market, if I want 10 million and I list it for 10 million, I'm not getting 10 million. At least I don't think so. Unless you just spot on, like, the seller was realistic to a certain extent. So I don't think it's realistic to think, like, don't be ashamed to offer less. I think is the best way to put it. If you're offering the same amount that they are, if it works for you, cool. Maybe you can get a deal done quickly. But especially if it's been on the market for a few days, that's something to consider as well. Like, okay, how many people have seen this at this ask price? Do we really think it's gonna move at that ask price? If not, why not offer less at that point? Or what I do, my favorite trick in the book, and Eddie knows this too, sure Eddie likes it too, is we take their asking price, we'll say we'll give it to you, but we want terms down.
That's my favorite. And just in case anybody wanted to know, creative is my love language. So just in case you guys are wondering what to get me next year. But yeah, offer, if they want that high price, offer them terms. Say, okay, perfect. I'll give you, you want 10 million? You want $2 million more because of Mickey Mouse? No problem. I actually think that's a great price point. Here's what we can do. I'll give it to you over the course of 50 years, right? And you obviously you negotiate it according to what makes the deal make sense. But every deal that we send off, Ed always does 3 offers, 3 different kinds, and creative is also one of them. So for sure, you definitely want to do that. One of the other questions that we have missed, I answered it, but for those of you who are online, do you do your napkin underwriting before you visit the place? The answer is 1000% yes. Always. In fact, I don't visit the place until my napkin checks out. And at this point, I have Ed do a elevated underwriting. Like, hey, does this actually work pencil? If he says, hey, this has some legs to it, let's see if we can send the LOI. Then to me, going to take a look at it is part of my market research. So that's when I would do that step. But other than that, save your gas. I mean, unless you got a Tesla or something, then save your electrical power. I don't know. Just underwrite the deal first and then go to the property. All right, that's right. Well, 1000. Keep 1000. All right, so here's what I want. Vince, can you set up because I know Ed put the notes in there. If it's possible, I would think it'd be great to set up a call with Ed.
He already did.
Oh.
He texted me already and I responded.
There you go.
We got this, bro.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome, Vince, thank you.
So typically, guys, how it would work is you would do the napkin underwriting. Once you hit submit, a Google form would come out and you just put all the details and a screenshot of the napkin underwriting. Ed or Cal or one of the underwriting guys would get the deal. They would look at your napkin, see what the upside is, see what the value, whatever, and then they'll be able to do their elevated. We call it elevated. Some people call it advanced underwriting. Once that happens, within 24-hour period, they will get back in contact with you and go under the process. Here's what I did. Here's why I did it. Here's some questions I have. Do you want to get in contact with the broker? If so, here's the information. Do you want me on that call? If so, here's what time frame can we work out? And this is all done by calendar. So if you send something over, you'll also see all the underwriters' calendar information or whatever, and then you can be able to book a time to kind of make sure that happens. Very similar to what Vince just did. All right. So here's the thing.
Real quick, Eddie.
Yeah.
Someone asked, how do they send us leads to underwrite on the Zoom? I'm going to post our deals email, correct?
No, it's leads.
Oh, leads. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I meant.
So I was just about to ask that. So we typically end at 9:30. I know Aldo had a deal as well, but Aldo, here's what I want you to do. Actually, let me see if I can bring you up here real quick. Vince, I'll take you off, but obviously you can still hang out with us. Hopefully that helped. Was that good, Vince?
It was. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Cool. Aldo, can you, because we can still get this done in a short period of time, spit out the numbers, and then Ed will plug it in and do the napkin, and then we can talk details while you're spitting out the numbers.
All right.
Hang on a second. It's 24 units. Looking at from the rent roll, I calculated $652 average rent.
Sorry, how much is that average rent?
652. What was the occupancy will on this thing? Was it 90? Hold on a minute. It's a 20.
With that,
83%. Yeah, it was 83%. I mean, I could go with Uptown World. We've exhausted that one. Yeah, 83%.
Oh, 83.
What's guidance here? Guidance is, I got you. It's 68 a unit. Was it 1.6? 1.625. Class C, yep. The same cap rate. Yep.
And what's the market rents on it?
Man, were they pushing 950? Well, they were trying to push 950 in some comps in the other area. I think same guy. Yeah, they were pushing
And you said it's 60 units?
24. My bad.
Oh, 20. My bad.
Yeah.
I heard 60, but I think that was on the per unit cost. Is there a rehab budget?
Trying to remember. Have they done? I think they've done all the rehabs on there. There wasn't much left to do to flip.
So we'll leave it like, we'll leave it at 3,500. It's not gonna make much of a difference.
Or yeah, 35. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so that's everything. Now, is there any assumable debt or seller carry involved?
No.
Okay, cool. So here are the few things to consider now. The first thing I'd look at if I were to take this to the next level, or even just doing it on this, you want to factor in, okay, why is that $300 jump there? That's always the first question. Is like, okay, how can we improve and get to that 300? If it's not a big rehab project, then it's poor management, which in a sense is pretty good because then you don't have to put more capital and spend more capital on it. And also benefits your cash on cash, like someone asked earlier, because you have less capital invested, obviously. Another thing that's kind of up in the air right now, and why the Napkin is, it's good for getting all your data in one place, but you have to remember this: the cost of capital is heavily going to affect any deal you underwrite.
Yep.
And that comes down to one, what's the cost of capital you can get, and secondly, what is the need of the seller to sell? If you can even get them to carry 10, 15, 20%, that changes everything. You're getting 10, 15, 20% at a much lower cost of capital.
Sure.
So the property severely been undermanaged, according to broker, definitely.
It's also been it's also a big flip. So, you know, a lot of this area is not a bit of a gamble, but it's upcoming. So the rents have been historically low. And so the properties that have been rehabbed have been pushing those rents.
I see. So do you think the rehab properties, is it close in an area? Is it proximity? Does it justify, like, hey, if I charge it's $950, is it realistic? And here's another thing we mentioned before. Sorry to go on a little bit of a rant, but what does that $950 on their rents include? Does it include water, electricity? Does it include a gym or amenities? Does it include free parking or covered parking? These are things that just the rent number does not paint the whole picture. Because what if you told me, in addition to this $950, you could bring in $75 worth of additional income a month? Now you're at $1,025. All of a sudden, you paint a different picture, right? So, and this is the calculator I have that'll dive deeper into this, which we would go into if we were doing the elevated, is I have current additional income, if any, what I can bring the additional income to by doing rubs, parking, laundry, X, Y, Z. And then I'm obviously going to look at it and say, okay, where are my areas of opportunity? And that's when diving into the T12, looking at the OM and talking to the management company is going to show us where the opportunities are on it, any specific building. And those are things to consider anytime you're looking at a property. We don't put additional income on here because it makes it very confusing. You don't want to mix it up, and if some cities have specific rules and regulations about the build back, you don't want to overestimate what you can actually do. Going back to what we say a lot as well is know your area in a sense.
One other thing I want to add, and this pertains to the last deal as well that we just did with Vince, is this napkin is primarily focused on the value add that you can get from rent. That is all, right? So, you know, you want to have something that at least you have the basis of rent. So that last deal, for example, it was like $40 per unit. It only came out to like $1 million. First of all, I just want to say how big and balling we are now, where we're just saying, oh, it's only $1 million upside, right? That's kind of crazy. That's still a good deal, but know that that's just considering rent, and that's not looking at it from the deep napkin, or not deep napkin, but from the elevated underwriting that you would do next to kind of see like, okay, is it really there? This is just what helps you save time and energy, so you don't do a full underwriting, elevated, and then come to find out this ain't even a good deal, right? Because it could go on when you're doing those type of things and getting research and all that.
I agree with Eddie. And one more point I want to make, guys, the napkin underwriting is not only for you to get an idea of how to underwrite it, you're scratching the surface, but when you join a team and you're building this multi-million, hundreds and thousands of units asset operating machine, this superpower thing that we all have or want to create, you're not going to be able to underwrite every deal. So this is going to also pertain to your team. Our team uses this every day, not because we like having them spend time on doing this. It's one, you have to be able to speak the same language. Like the acquisitions team should know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. If I can't fill this out, then there's no way Ed can do his job. So this is also something where you're going to be using this and teaching this to people you're working with. And even if you never want to look at the elevated underwriting, if you never want to be the underwriter like I like to be, or Aldo does, like if you never want to do that, this is good to know, because you're one day going to be working with the underwriter who's going to be asking for the same stuff and talking about the same stuff we are here. And that Victor's going to go over to on his calls, you know? So this isn't just I have to learn this because I want to underwrite. It's like, why do we take GE classes in college? And if you didn't go to college, I envy you. I wish I didn't either. So I hope that helps. But guys, like this, it goes a lot deeper than this, and this is just scratching the surface for the reason that now I have these numbers. I can plug this into my calculator in a matter of seconds, and me and Aldo could go on for a half hour looking into every single detail and be like, hey, this is where the upside is, and whether it's a deal or not. Or we can identify in 20 minutes and then go have a drink. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it all depends how many times you've done this.
Hey, Aldo, is this a deal that's in your market, like where you're looking to purchase?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it absolutely is.
I would say shoot it, fill out the form, shoot it over to Ed, and then pick some time so you guys could do the deep underwriting. It'll probably take y'all 20 minutes for real. But at least that way you can have, you know, a little bit more insight than what's here. I mean, right here, it looks okay.
It looks all right. Yeah, it looks all right. Honestly, it was primarily to be able to contact the broker and to add this broker to our repertoire. But we're actually going down to Birmingham Thursday, and we'll be adding this to our list of appointments down there. So what we don't have is you know, performance or T12s, etc. I really like that before I start diving into into the elevated underwriting. So we hope we can get something like that. What did they say, Will, on that in terms of having that sort of data?
Where's Will? Well,
Yeah, so they were saying that the current owner is also managing the property, and it doesn't sound like they've been managing it very well. So, and they've been pretty hard to get financials from as well. So she's going to work on trying to get us some T12s, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Since you guys are already going out there, then I think that's the best move, right? You're already going to be there. Let's stop by. Because if you're waiting for them to send you anything, it sounds like you're going to be waiting for a long time.
Yep.
And so I think that's the best move. So that's the only time I would say, yeah, go visit. But other than that, guys, make sure you can get what you need from the broker or from the seller before you take trips, because you'll be highly upset when you realize you wasted your day.
Yeah, hopefully we can land a deal out of this trip. We're going to negotiate another one.
Well, you can guilt trip them, right? Be like, hey, you know how far we had to travel? Like, you're gonna we need this
come down a little bit. Just come down a little bit.
Yeah, it's just $1 million. You know what's the big deal? Awesome. Hey, keep us updated with this. Oh, Ed, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, here's one more thing too. Anytime you're looking at a property, you're looking at anything. The two questions I love asking any broker is, why has it been on the market this long, and have you gotten any offers? Because right off the bat, if they've gotten offers, they'll tell you around what it was. They like to tell you like, oh, I got an offer at 1.5 and the seller said no. It's like, okay, why? Or when was that? And has anything changed since then? Because if they're already playing hardball and they have been for months, trust me, your offer is not going to be any different because the seller's going to see paper. Like, unless you make it different, obviously with creative and stuff like that, but that's a different offer. But if your numbers are falling in the same place, look, at the end of the day, the market is what the market is. Or the numbers come out to what some agent yelled at me and called me an idiot and a terrible investor for not paying what they wanted me for a building. And this listing is still there. It's been 5 months. And I laugh every time I see it. So I don't know who's crazy, me or her, but whatever.
We have one of those too.
We have one of those.
That's my vent for the night.
That's called broker frustration. Yeah,
holding a grudge.
You can do with that. All right, perfect.
If you don't mind, I'll send you the other deal that we have. I'll send you the elevated underwriting so you can tear it apart. Would love to get another set of eyes on it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anytime. Anyone here, you guys know, like, my phone number is here not just because I think it'd be cool if you guys had my phone number and I love spreading it. Like, use it. Call me, text me. Just if I don't have your number saved, please let me know who you are. I pick up every call. And if I forget, I apologize because I'm probably on another one. But send me a text. Like we're all friends here. Like, I'm here as a resource, and I want to help you guys out. So any way I can, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Let's do it, man. Thanks, fellas. All right, we're gonna do our last one because it's Valentine's Day. We're gonna spread the love. And so I got Miss Paula here with us. How are you? Now you know she was supposed to be in the house for Valentine's. You see her, she snuck out in the car. So there's no way we're not gonna help you underwrite this deal. So what do you got for us?
Hi guys, how you doing tonight? Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Doing great.
I have come across a deal that I'm kind of curious about. I have a 37 unit for $6 million. It has an assumable loan on it for 8 years for 4.9% on a cap rate. What was this? Sorry, forgive me. You guys kind of caught me off guard here.
Okay.
Let me bring it up. I'm trying to get the cash on cash flow estimate.
Oh, okay. That's something I'll do on my calculator, but I can play around with this.
What was the average rent?
$1,550.
Okay. And do you happen to know what the market rent is?
The market rent around there is between 1,500 to 2,500. It's on the coastline. It's a beach.
Okay.
Do we know the rehab budget or if there is a big CapEx budget?
Not that I have seen. I have called the broker, I've left them a message. They haven't gotten back to me. The only thing that I have to go off of is the OM that they have listed for it.
So, okay,
Go
does it
ahead.
have, okay, so, okay, this is gonna, if you're looking for the cash on cash, this is, I'm probably gonna be honest, this form isn't gonna help you much because it doesn't tell you your cash on cash. But if you do want that, you and I can connect and then I could just run it through my calculator so that way you can see how the cash was affected by all the different changes we make. Because we run our deals based on cash as well. That's one of the things we look at. So if you wanna, I can show you how that looks on my end. And whenever you can send it to me and we can connect on that.
Okay.
That work better for you?
That works 100 times better.
Okay, awesome.
Give me time to get everything together.
No rush. We'll probably do tomorrow. Probably a little late at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if you can see my number, but send me a text.
Will do.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat too. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Not a problem, not a problem. All right, we did it. We had a successful night. You guys came out and I hope we gave you guys some game, right? I hope we gave you guys more than just game, more than just a spreadsheet. I hope there was a lot of understanding so you can look at deals differently. You know, being able to look at the deal the way an underwriter looks at a deal and understand it, the way, you know, a person like myself who's more of a negotiator is looking at something and understand it. And now you can take that and put that into what you're gonna see come across your table tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, and what you've already missed on, right? You may have deals in the background that somebody sent you a month ago that you may want to revisit now that you have this new form knowledge. And the best thing about this, the best part about this is if you go to sleep tonight and you wake up tomorrow and you forget everything, it's all recorded and you still have access to us, right? It's not like, oh, well, we're not on a Zoom now, so I'm charging you $1 a minute or something, right? Like, this is what we do. This is why we're doing it. We really want everyone in here to win. There's absolutely no reason, even though it may look like sometimes there's not enough deals because it looks like everybody else is getting a deal. There is so many multifamily deals available. There are so many people who are ready to sell their multifamily deal. And there are so many people who have not met you, liked you, loved you, and want to sell you their deal with the team that you're going to develop from the people that's in this group. So with that being said, appreciate you all. Ed, take us out, man.
All right, this was fun. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys. As always, we're here to help you guys out. Don't forget, tomorrow actually is gonna be a fun one with Victor. I'm looking forward to it a lot. So he's gonna drop some great information that'll definitely expand on what we talk about. You know, at the end of the day, we all work together to make this community, and we all connect with each other and trying to build and cover all bases we can in this crazy thing we call real estate. So please be active in community, and I hope everyone gets enjoyed the rest of their nights. See you guys next week.
Stay charged up, everybody. Peace.